Welcome to the Arts to Hearts podcast, a show where we take a peek into the hearts and lives of our favorite artists. From running a creative business and practice to mindset, we talk about everything that goes behind into making a life and a career that you adore as an artist. Think of this as your happy hour with your favorite artist in your studio. Hear them share the messy and the wonderful side of creating and living a creative, heartfelt life within and outside our studios. As you tune in, be ready to be inspired and encouraged. I'm your host, Charuka Arora, an artist, designer, entrepreneur, and founder of Arts to Hearts project. Thank you so much for being here. Let's jump right in. Hey, you guys, welcome back to the Arts to Hearts podcast. This is your host, Charuka Arora. Today, I have an amazing guest with me. She's not only an artist, a passionate entrepreneur, but she's also someone that I deeply, deeply associate with. We both share a very deep mission towards our work. But before I dig into all of these things and I tell you more about my guest, let me introduce you to Svitlana. Svitlana, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me and for having me here, Charuka. This is a pleasure. I remember discovering your art for the first time through All She Makes, and you were one of the artists I selected to be published in the issue of a Create magazine that we were doing, I think, last year for Women's Month. And I was so captivated by how you created your work. So I'm really excited to see you, rise and take your basically adventure and your career into your own hands. So this is so fun.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I have been following your work for quite a while. I remember you launching All She Makes right in front of me. And I think I was one of the very early people. It was the first issue first directory opening that you did. And I'm so grateful to be a part of the All She Makes community. It just makes me so happy that all of us are just trying to do whatever best we believe in and we can do about it. But we're definitely going to talk about all of this, about you, about All She Makes, about lots of more stuff. But before we go into all of this, let's get to know you better. Can you introduce yourself to our listeners so that they can just know you better and then we can dig into the conversation?
Of course. Well, first of all, before I am a social entrepreneur, I'm an artist, and I started working with art ever since I was a kid. I was fascinated with it, with what it did, with how it felt. And I moved to the United States when I was 16. Wow. And my path took a lot of different turns and twists before I landed where I am right now. And I feel like I finally found something that relates and resonates and something that makes me happy. So here I am.
Okay, I do have a lot of questions. But before we get into the shift, let's get to know a little bit about your life in the Ukraine. You moved when you were 16. You spent quite a bit of your time in the Ukraine. How was it?
So the interesting part is that I didn't realize what my childhood really was until very recently. It was, to summarize it, my family life, my growing up was not the happiest of all. And I didn't really see it until recently. It was, through therapy and just kind of looking backwards in retrospect and understanding that, wow, some of the things that happened should not have happened to a kid. I should not have been made an adult at 6 years old. I should not have been made responsible for my safety when I was 6. Those sort of things. But when I was there and living my life, just trying to survive, and a lot of things that made me who I am today happened there. So, for example, my fascination with nature. I grew up in the city, but my great-grandma still lived in the village on the outside of the city, in the countryside. And those are some of my favorite memories. I don't think my family knows that as much, because I never really liked being there, but I didn't like being there because they just would leave me alone there. And that's the part that I didn't like. they either left me alone or they didn't allow me to do a lot of things that a kid would want to do when they're out in the nature, in the village. I want to play in the dirt. If there's a farm, there's a garden, I want to get dirty. But my parents were all about, oh, don't go there, don't stick your hand in the dirt, don't do this, don't do that. And so they kind of ruined that for me while I was there. But it was something that I always enjoyed. I loved seeing the green soft grass in a little courtyard in front of my great grandma's house. She had, on one side of the house, she had a little garden with peonies that bloomed every time. And that was like one of the happiest times for me. I loved peonies. And on the other side of the house, she had raspberry bushes, and you could just pick raspberries when you went there. I loved that as well. And then behind the house, you had the little coop with chickens. I know that she used to have pigs when I was little, but I don't think she had them anymore as I grew up, because I think she was just getting too old for that. And so during the times when I didn't visit my great grandma, I grew up in the city. So most of my time was spent in the city, and that's what I'm most drawn into. I like being able to go outside, venture out, have a little adventure, not know where I'm going, just kind of go and look around. That's kind of what drives my life right now. I cannot stand being in a place where things are not accessible. I don't like it. I feel closed off. I just feel trapped, I guess. That's what it makes me feel. I lived in Texas when I moved to the States, and that made me feel so trapped. Texas as a state is very different than other states, and is very large, first of all, but there's not many things there. So to get to a store to buy food, you have to drive like 20 minutes in a car, and there's no public transportation, so you cannot get there otherwise. So it's not made for people to survive there, at least not for me, because I grew up being able to go outside and access a store. And when I came here, it was very different. So my life in Ukraine, I feel like now I've been in the States as long as I've been in Ukraine, I'm still not used to the States. Ukraine, I feel like it built me into the person that I am. It kind of put that groundwork in, and no matter what I did to trying to kind of change that, it just didn't work. So I think about, last year or 2 years ago, I decided to embrace my Ukrainianness fully, 100%. I'm now starting to celebrate my holidays again. I'm not feeling ashamed of talking about my culture. And yeah, that's so I guess long story short, being in Ukraine totally set me up to be a certain way. It created the groundwork for the person that I am. Cultural values, the importance of community, the importance of helping somebody or being able to be helped when I need help. Those sort of things are super important to me.
So yeah, actually what you've spoken, I really have a couple of questions, which I'm going to just go into. You have been someone who's also talked about trauma and healing quite openly, and you keep sharing about like a lot about your own journey. And I've also seen, like, in fact, I think you and I a lot of conversations about cultural things in Russia, and some things similar in India. In fact, I do have a lot of these conversations with Kat also, because I've seen like there's a lot of cultural overlap that India and Russia has, especially, the societal structure, a lot of those things. But my next question to you is that you are someone who stands for women identity, cultural identity. How has your experience as a woman been in the Ukraine till the time you were there? And how has that shaped you today?
Yeah, so I think Eastern Europe in general. So when we talk about Eastern Europe, we have, and I also want to bring attention to this because due to lack of education in the United States, Americans don't really understand that Eastern Europe is very different from Western Europe. They see me, they think I have the same access to things as Western Europe. Unfortunately, I do not. Western Europe sees Eastern Europe as dirty immigrants. They just come there to, do whatever. And it's heartbreaking. And so when I come to the United States, it's very interesting because white Americans will treat me depending on what they need from me. So basically the kind of treatment I get depends on what they're looking to benefit from. So if they want to participate in being discriminative towards someone, like telling racist jokes, they want to look at me and kind of seek support from me in that, because I am white. And I'm like, I'm sorry, no, because I'm an immigrant, and all the other times you hate me. All the other times you tell me like, oh, mail order brides come from your countries, this and that and the other. And to me, it's like, okay, we're not gonna do this. If you want to discriminate me towards me, and then tell me that when I used to work in customer service, one thing that happened a lot, oh, get me someone who can speak English. Sir, I speak 4 languages.
Oh my God.
Do not get at me with this nonsense, please, while you only speak 1. But anyways, and so I kind of want to bring that, into the conversation before I move on. I feel like this is an important thing that we don't talk enough about. It's like somehow Americans think that one group cannot be discriminative towards each other within the same group.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about, let's say we are talking about white people, it does not mean that all of them will not be homophobic against each other. Yeah. Like there will be people that are discriminated towards the same group. And so it's the same for me. Yeah. I'm an immigrant. I'm not a Western European immigrant. So people don't assume, oh, I have a French fancy accent. They hear my accent and they think, oh, scary Russians or something. Yeah. I'm like, I'm not even from Russia. It's not even the same country, but that's a whole another situation. Let me get off that soapbox because I can keep going. So anyways, how my bringing up and my culture shaped me or gave me like the visions about what it's like being a woman. Since I was a kid, I saw what being a woman was like in my culture. It was kind of like you're gonna be a wife, you're going to be, it was weird too, because simultaneously my parents were teaching me, or you're gonna have to get married, and also, oh, but you're also going to have to learn to sustain yourself. You need to get an education so you don't rely on anyone. So I'm like, so which one is it?
I don't feel understand. You so much. I completely relate to you. In fact, when I had this conversation with Kat, she had a different experience. But so many of our listeners, when they heard this episode, a lot of people reached out to me and they said, even in the parts of the world that they are, like, in India, we are told like, you're a woman. The main purpose most of the time, the whole stereotypical is to get married, to be a good wife, a good daughter, a good daughter-in-law. And then they also say that, a woman should also be independent because you can't be dependent on anyone. And to be dependent, you need to get out of the house and you need to work. But then they also want a partner or a wife or a daughter who's a good daughter in the definition of the whole cultural thing is. So, yeah, I mean, this is very interesting. Please go on. I just wanted to add this.
No, it's interesting that you say that it's similar in the other parts of the world. Oh my gosh, what is happening to us? And so I actually, as I was growing up and as I was seeing that, I was realizing I would absolutely hate to be any of these things. At first I thought to myself, wow, to take care of the entire family, that's too much work. I cannot do that all on my own. And then I thought, to be cooking and cleaning all the time, that sounds weird too. I don't like that either. Like I just did not like any of that. And I think had I stayed in Ukraine, that probably would be a path that I would have taken reluctantly. And then maybe when I'm 40, I think I would have been like, I'm sick and tired of this crap. No more. but
I can relate to every bit.
Yes. But luckily I didn't have to go through that. And I think, this is one thing that I am, a little thankful for, that I ended up here. Although I never wanted to come to the United States. This was not a choice that I had. Yeah. This was not a country where so my parents sent me. They decided that's what was happening. And because, I'm 16, like I don't really have a choice. I can't go anywhere and do my own thing and live on my own. Because again, growing up in a toxic household, I was taught, it was very strange too. Again, a lot of contradictory mindsets where I was taught that I'm unable to do anything because I'm dumb, but also I was inevitably never taught how to do anything on my own. I was never taught independence. However, I was always punished for not being independent enough,
Yeah.
which made no sense and which provided no space for me to learn in any way, shape, or form. And so my parents ended up sending me here to look for better future, better opportunities. And lo and behold, 10 years down the road after moving here, I'm realizing, wait a minute, this is not much different than anywhere else in the world. Some things are different, give and take, but every place will have that. You have an advantage of something and a disadvantage of something else, and you kind of have to choose what you like more. And I realized that United States is not really the place for me. So my parents sent me to go and do foreign exchange student visa sort of thing situation, where I lived with a family who were strangers to me, and I lived with them for a year. Also ended up switching families at one point because my first family ended up getting divorced like 2 months after I moved there.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that was a lot to deal with for a 16-year-old. And I had no idea how the world works yet. Mind you, I'm in a whole different country with a whole different set of culture, rules, and identities. I have to learn I haven't even learned what I am, and I have to learn already what this culture is and how to participate in this culture. And then realizing that I don't like any of it that I'm doing. To be accepted in this culture, I have to do things that I don't like. And I realized that it's not me. I'm not the problem, because for the longest time, I thought there was something wrong with me because I didn't fit in.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I mean, as much as we hate to accept this, but this is a reality for so many of us. Of course, it's not only in the countries that we live. I have met people, spoken to people who've been in different setups and across the world, but have had similar experiences. And some of us, because we come from parts of the world where the societal structure is such that women lack like they lack representation, or the social structure is such that. While you were in the Ukraine, were you someone who was, like, as a kid, were you interested in the arts? Were you the creative? Were you spending a lot of time?
Yes, for sure. Since I was a little kid, I remember the very first experience I had with art. My mom had me sitting in her lap, and I think maybe I was drawing or something. And this is my very first memory of drawing. She gave me, there were some pencils on the table, and I grabbed the blue one and I started just moving it on the paper, and I was absolutely fascinated with the fact that it made marks on paper. I still remember that memory. I remember watching what happened and just my mind being blown, like, oh, this what it does? I can do stuff with my hands. And ever since then, I've been fascinated with painting and drawing. I tried watercolors because that's the medium that we use the most at school, and that just, it was my most favorite thing. I tried going to art school back home. So back home we have art schools that are separate from regular school that you go to study. Art school is specifically to gain academical art knowledge. So they train you academically. Okay. And yeah, guess what? I was 10 years old. There's no way that I had a patience to sit through it. Nobody taught me patience. Nobody explained to me, this is what you do to get to where you want to be. No, they just told me, this is what you gotta do. And if you don't, you're a failure. So I was like, well, I guess I don't want to do it right now. So I guess I'm not going to. I quit. And of course, later I regretted it. Yeah. Because, I didn't know as a kid that that's just a part of learning process. Nobody explained to me. And then not until that I came here to the States, I took a couple of art classes in junior college, and I realized, my goodness, I love paint. I love painting. I tried acrylics for the first time, and I was like, this is like real paint. This is real art. Oh my God, I was in love, and the rest is just basically slowly taking baby steps into making decisions to be like, okay, I guess I'm gonna make art now, learn more about it, read more about art, and here I am.
Wow. And you're doing such amazing things that we're all inspired of you. And it's just, I think nothing inspires me more than seeing women who put themselves together inch by inch. And I think we all fall, we all stumble, but when we see each other put ourselves back again, it just does not inspire and encourage our own selves, but it helps so many more. I mean, I always look up to you with everything that you're doing, and so many others, I'm sure. So we are all here rooting for you because there's so much work that you need to do for all of us, for yourself. Okay, when you moved to America, you were here as a foreign exchange student. How did you get into the arts actually then?
So it was such a long and backwards journey. I took a couple of classes in junior college. So the education system in the States, I know this people from all over the place will be listening to this, so I feel like I have to explain a little bit. You can go to university, but you can also take they're like main courses that you have to have for any degree. And so this main set of courses you can take in a junior college, which is not a university, but it's the same thing. It's just much cheaper because all they offer is to teach you these basic courses. And but you can also take anything else while you're in there. And so I took a couple of art courses. I took art history, painting, drawing. And actually, I don't think I took painting. I think I took design and drawing and art history. But and so I was technically qualified to have associate's degree in fine arts. And so that's what I got. Like right after that, I moved to a different town and I got into a very abusive relationship, which literally set me back maybe 2 or 3 years. I completely lost the sight of myself, didn't know what was real or not anymore, didn't trust myself, didn't have my own voice. It was just not a good thing all around. After I got out of that relationship, I told myself, okay, I'm going to take my life into my hands basically and just try to do what I think is right and learn to trust myself actually. So I started seeing a therapist after that and realized that that whole relationship was based on my family trauma because it was the exact same dynamics. My ex treated me the exact same way my family treated me my whole life. And so, which was weird because I knew while I was in that relationship, I knew that it was bad. I didn't like it. But it felt like that's what it was supposed to be because that's what I only ever knew.
Experience. That's true. I'm so sorry.
And going through therapy, helped me see that, helped me to learn more about myself, helped me learn about boundaries. And I started attending university to get my bachelor's. And I actually ended up switching to psychology because one, I really love psychology. I really love the way human minds work. And at the time that I thought, what, I'm also going to help people. I'm going to make difference. And so I'm going to do clinical psychology, which means become a psychotherapist.
Oh, wow.
And
quite a shift.
Yes, but listen to this. It's not over yet.
No, please go on.
And I finished my bachelor's. It was 2 years, and I was working as a store manager at the time. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so to become psychotherapist, I need to do a doctoral degree. So I need to get PhD, and that's another 6 years of school. There is no way in this world that I'm going to survive through another 6 years of school. I thought to myself. And so ultimately I was like, okay, well, what kind of other degree that I can get that is higher than bachelor's, but maybe that I can finish in 2 years? I thought maybe doing social work or some kind of a smaller helping people related degree, but those social worker degrees don't actually pay much. And I thought to myself, if I'm going to do this on my own, I need to make sure I can sustain myself, I can feed myself, that I don't have to worry about where my money is coming from. And I was like, okay, since I like psychology, I also like business. I was working as a store manager at the time, but it was for a small business. And I thought, okay, well, I want to know how things happen on a large scale if we're talking corporation wise. I don't know how things happen on that scale. What are important decisions that people make? And so I thought, okay, I'm going to go to school for management consulting. And so that's what I did. I got master's in strategic management, and that was the best decision I have ever made, I think.
I know you said this before.
Without even knowing. Yes, without even knowing, I gave myself the tools that I needed to succeed as my own business owner, as you know, anything entrepreneurial wise. Oh my gosh, that degree has taught me so much. And so when people say nowadays that school will not, you know, school is not for everyone, you just haven't found the right degree.
Right. That is true. That is true.
Yes.
I think if there's a better education system, if we are also taught just more than paper, and if it's just more than numbers, there's so much that we can take away.
Exactly. And that degree has taught me anything from marketing to working in companies on the international level. There was so much that it opened up for me that I had no idea about, that I'm so thankful. It's literally I used so much from that degree for setting up All She Makes, for making All She Makes what it is today. For writing, for managing my own art business on the side. I use that degree literally in every step I go. So it's, I love that. Every time I say, you know what, this degree is definitely paying off, because I was so worried too. Well, if I work for myself, why did I get the degree? But I wouldn't have gotten the knowledge that I have gotten if I have not done that. So it was really helpful for me personally. And so here I am. And back to actually answering your question of how my art, kind of started in there. So after my bachelor's, before I got my master's, I was like, well, right now I'm taking a year break, and I guess I'm going to take, I'm going to have to start taking my art more seriously, because I love painting, I love what I'm doing, but I just don't know what to do with it.
Were you making art on the side then?
Yes, I was making small pieces. I was making abstracts that quite didn't really make sense, and I wasn't really selling them yet. This is when I started. What I was selling though was different things. So I also used to make watercolor illustrations and watercolor bridal portraits.
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was, because it's not something that I do so much anymore. So people that didn't know me back then don't really know that.
When was this?
It was 2000, I would say around 2014, 2016. That was that time frame. So right after the bad relationship that I had, when I started taking my life into my own hands, I was like, okay, well, I like, making fashion illustrations. What can I do with it? And so I started offering bridal portraits, and those did really well. But again, I didn't personally enjoy them so much, but I didn't because I needed the money at the time. And so I took whatever job that I could get, basically. And when I started doing more abstract work in 2016, after I got my bachelor's, finally, I was like, okay, well, I have to actually do what my therapist once told me. And that's what I did. I set up a plastic cover on the floor, not to dirty the floor. I put a big canvas down, and I just started pouring paint. And I had the best time of my life.
Oh my God.
It was the second painting that I made right after that, is that I knew that there was something in it. And that painting is called Breathe, and you can find it on my profile, on my website. That's the one that currently, it's been with West Elm for a few years now.
Wow.
Because it's doing so well. And with that piece, I knew that, okay, I found something. I found a little bit of my voice that I'm looking for, a little bit of my own. I know that this can go somewhere. I know that I can take it somewhere. And it was during that time that I learned about Minted and their art contest that they do through an artist that I admired, Jess Franks, who I also later ended up meeting in real life through Minted, which was a big fangirl moment. And she was the one who was posting, submitting some art to Minted. And I was like, oh, what's Minted? Can I submit my art there? And so I had just made that painting, Breathe. And I was like, this painting is so big and meaningful to me. And it was so crazy the way everything happened. I went to submit to the contest. I didn't realize there was like an actual hour deadline. I thought it was anytime throughout the day that I could submit
Oh,
it.
wow.
And I submitted it 10 minutes before the deadline.
It was meant to be.
And yes, and that painting, and it ended up going through all of these. It's got selected and picked up by Westelman. It's been with them for so many years. I have gotten so many collectors that reached out because they saw my art in West Elm, and they wanted to get custom commissions from me. It's just been an incredible journey from then on. So that's how I knew. I had a feeling that the painting was special, and only throughout the years that I saw, oh wow, this painting was really special. I'm so glad I listened to myself.
That's such a nice story, because sometimes opportunities come way. In fact, like I'm sure all of us do think a lot of time like this, that sometimes there's like this opportunity we come across and we're like, sometimes you underestimate, sometimes you overestimate, sometimes you overthink. Am I good enough? Should I submit? Oh, anyways, why should I? Or oh, maybe this opportunity, my work could be better suited somewhere else. And we overthink and overanalyze, and sometimes we just don't think about how things happen and how our purpose, our work is just to put our work out there. And then it's just, it'll find its way, it finds its way.
Exactly. You're very right. And so at that point, I started selling smaller pieces that I was making. I started selling originals, which I was so shocked. And I guess at first it was shocking. It's like, oh, wow, strangers, people that I don't know are buying my paintings. And so at that time in 2016, I was like, you know what, I'm making this series. I'm taking this into my own hands, and I'm going to start making art professionally. And so that's what I did. I set up a separate a little area in the house, in the studio room that I shared with my boyfriend at the time, now husband. Wow. And then as we moved to a different state, we moved to Michigan, it was the same thing. We split a separate room into our little studios. And then later that year, my business was doing well. So I ended up getting, I think a year or 2 years after, I ended up actually getting a studio outside of my home. And that's been the best decision so far, to get an outside studio. I know that a lot of people work well when they have a studio inside of home. For me, I realized if I'm at home, I will be doing everything but painting. So I had to get out of the house. That's kind of how that went for me.
Okay, so here's is how Svitlana as an artist happened. In our conversation, I can definitely see that your business and your people skill, I would say, both of them, like you could see that coming your way. How did All She Makes happen and this community for women artists?
Of course. Well, I think first and foremost, what I want to mention is that when I had the idea for All She Makes, it was with an idea of service behind it. So I wanted there to be a resource for anybody looking out there for a woman artist. And I realized that what people have been asking me, which is strange enough because our local artist community is robust. I feel like we all know each other, but still people that want to make some sort of change and want to invite artists to participate, they kept asking me, so where do we find the artists? We don't know where to find the artists. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't know where to find the artists? I know all of them, for example. How do you not know all of them? And so I realized, okay, well, maybe at some point in future, there needs to be like some sort of website where we list all of the local artists or something, right? So I had so many different ideas that eventually ended up coming together and basically coming up with All She Makes, with all of that. And at the same time, I started to learn about the gender disparity in the arts, which again, we don't learn about in art school or museums. You kind of go to art museum and you expect to see the art history represented correctly, and it could not be further from the truth, it turns out. It turns out that only 13.7% of living artists represented in galleries and museums are women. So major galleries and museums represent living artists, and only 13.7 of all of those living artists are women. So it blew my mind. Yeah. Because this is not just like, oh, we're slightly underrepresented. We're ridiculously underrepresented. So people, out of all people that get masters in fine arts degrees, 60% are women. So we're talking about women getting master's degrees at higher rates than men do. However, we don't have the jobs to show for. We don't get these jobs. So if we're graduating at 60% of the whole degree spectrum are women artists, we should cover 60% of the market, right? That's
absolutely
what it sounds like. But that's not the reality. And I didn't know that. I did not know any of this information. Nobody taught me about this in school. Nobody taught me about this anywhere, basically. Nobody was talking about it. And when I started learning about it from just little online resources, the very first one I think was Art Girl Rising. And I started doing my own experiments of looking in the back of art books and checking the index and seeing how many women artist names I see in comparison to men artist names. And that was shocking. It would be like 4 pages before I get to a woman artist name. And I was like, cannot be true. This cannot be the reality. Are you serious? How come people do not talk about this? How come this is not an issue? I don't understand. And at the same time thinking about how we can create something that collects the artists in one place. And that's when I was like, okay, well, maybe this directory idea that I have in mind, this website, can be for women artists only, since we are having a hard time getting seen anywhere. How do people even find us? And I was like, okay, the more I started thinking about it, the more I realized, okay, I want this to be for all people across the world, all women artists across the world. I want it to be curated. That way we have curators who jury the people into the directory. So people don't have to worry about, okay, how do I select an artist? How do I know what art to select? It's basically all done for you. It's already pre-selected. You only choose the style that you want, the theme, and our directory is in a style of a gallery, so that way it's easier for people to process. And that was the idea behind it. And so I launched it as a small directory. I thought, okay, well, maybe, I'll collect people from different areas of the world. I hope this works. I thought to myself, I thought to myself that this was the best idea ever, but I didn't know if other people were going to think that too. And it turns out they did. And I was like, no way. And I also did some research too. I went and I found other artist directories, but there was a lot of them that were asking for fees to look at the directory. And I was like, that's not helping the visibility problem. That's not helping people to discover the artist. It has to be free to view. And so that was, or some of them actually had ridiculous fees, like $20 or $50 a month. And I'm like, for what? For what? And so I was like, okay, mine is not going to have monthly fees. We're out with the monthly fees. No nonsense. But at this point, because we launched it in January last year, so it's only been out for a year and a half, but it took off. It started taking basically its own direction, and I had to kind of like run after it and be like, okay, where is it going? What do people want? What can I do? How can we combine all of this together? How can this make sense? And I realized that what people were looking for was so much more, and there was so many different plans that I could set in motions. And with having the feature in Create magazine, I realized, wow, wouldn't that be something cool to have a magazine where our own artists could be published? And so I was like, started researching magazines for women artists, and there was not something exactly like what I was looking for. I wanted there to be a magazine that highlights women artists from all over the world, not just maybe United States, or not just, painters, like everyone. And I wanted it to be highlighting our directory artists, but also giving opportunity for anyone to submit. Like, I wanted it to be a whole different thing. And so thinking about it, but thought, you know what, I have no business in doing publishing. I just launched this. This is going to have to wait. I don't even know anything about publishing. And when I reached out to Kat Popova, the founder of Create Magazine, she pointed me to a book that literally answered all my questions. I read the book and I was like, I know how to do a magazine now. So it was really helpful. I don't remember the name of it right now, but I do have it in case anybody's interested. And I read the book, and there was so many different ideas. Yes.
Just send me the link and I will add it to the show notes.
Yeah, I will send you the link. And I realized that there was so many different ways that one could set up publishing, basically. There were so many different ways. And it was like a whole new creative project for me. I thought, wow, I can get creative with the layouts, with everything. This is like a whole new art project for me, what it felt like.
I've literally seen you from launching just talk, actually not even launching. I've seen you just talking about All She Makes, and then to coming this far, which is just amazing. I have my last question, and then we'll get to the next round. And it's a question that I ask to all my guests, and it's something that I always like look forward to. Let's say if there was no fluff around anything and everything that we're doing, if we did not have to make money, if there was no fame, nothing good, bad, I don't know how even to put it. If, let's say, if the world was ending, what would be that one reason, one thing that will put you out of bed and make you do the work that you're doing today?
Yeah, of course. So I think anything that I would be doing ever in the world, it has to do with being of service in some way. And I thought about this a lot too, because for the longest time, I knew that being a psychotherapist was more coming from the trauma part of me that wanted to help people in the same way that I was helped, but I knew that it was trauma related. And so I had to kind of pivot, because I still want to help people, but I had to do it in a way that doesn't trigger me constantly, doesn't re-traumatize me. And I think growing up in the collectivist society where people do help each other, that's a part of being a human, and that's something that I'm liking so much being in the States, because everything is so individualistic. And I think that's being of service, that's what drives me. So no matter what would happen in the world, I would find something, that one thing that would inspire me to want to make change, to make things better, and I would be a part of that.
Oh my God, that's such a great thought, and it's very inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Okay, Svitlana, there are so many things that I have to ask, but we're short on time. I think we'll have to do another episode. But Svitlana and I actually have something very special to share with our listeners today. If you've reached this far, thank you so much. This is a special conversation we just wanted to add in this podcast, but you can also find all the details in the upcoming episode. Okay, so Svitlana and I have been talking about this. I think we spoke about it when All She Makes was happening, then when Arts to Hearts was happening. Finally, we decided to make this happen to now. Both of us share a very similar vision, and I think we both have very similar stories when it comes to growing up, the societal traumas, and the societal structure as a woman. And we've grown up in environments, and why? Probably because that is the reason why both of us are so passionate about bringing more voice to the female community, having more identity for women, and just fighting for ourselves and supporting each other. We are excited to share upon opportunity and launch an opportunity together. So All She Makes and Arts to Hearts are collaborating on a new opportunity, a call for art and artists. And the theme of this exhibit is gaze.
I'm just really excited that we're doing this together. I think I know that this is like a perfect time for it. I think you're coming up, again, watching you come up, with your own project and trying to make to put your own effort into making difference in this world. It's so amazing to watch, and it's like, oh, I love seeing that. I love see people do what they love, and this brings me so much happiness to watch you unfold and blossom, basically, in the way that you feel is fulfilling to you. And so that's more about you, though. But let's talk about the exhibit. Like, I'm also really excited about this one, because you being on the other side of the world, I feel like will, bridge us together and hopefully bring more people together and hopefully give opportunities to more people. So I'm really excited about it.
We are hoping to hear from all of you. So if you're listening to this podcast, you can find the details of this exhibition in the next episode. Whether you're a painter, a mixed media artist, an illustrator, any kind of maker, artist, in any way you've experienced any kind of hierarchical oppression as a woman, this call is for you. If your work practice includes this, we're looking for you. And we want to learn more about your work and what you do. So you can find all the details on www.arts2heartsproject.com and www.allshemakes.org. Do you want to add anything if I've missed?
Well, I think the important thing is to remind people that they will also be selected to All She Makes magazine.
Oh, yes.
So that's another exciting part. I'm looking forward to reviewing all of the submissions and again learning about all of your art, because this is how I find out about what's going on in the world, basically, because every person has their own story to tell, their own experiences, and they do it in so many different ways. There is never two same artists discussing the same issue in the same way, never. And so
love that. So yes, Svitlana will be curating this show. The participants will be a part of an exhibit. You will be also, a few selected participants will be a part of the art All She Makes magazine, and we will also be selecting a few participants to be a part of a video documentary that we will be working on. So please go visit www.arts2heartsproject, All She Makes, and you can find all the details and reach out to us if you have any questions. Okay, so let's get to the most exciting part of the podcast. This is actually my most favorite part because I think it's the most fun. And I think I say this in every episode. So forgive me, guys, if I say this every time, because that is how excited I am every time. Okay, so I'll ask you a set of questions. You have to be super quick. Anything and everything that comes to your mind for the first time I ask you the question. The whole rapid fire is just to know you better, who you are as a person and who you are as an artist. So are you ready? Should we do this? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Here we go. One thing you want to convey through your work in the arts?
Feelings.
Wow. What's that one word that describes you the best?
Ridiculous.
Really?
That's how I describe myself all the time, because I am. Because I feel like I'm a jumble of all ridiculous things and I make no sense sometimes whatsoever. Sometimes I do contradictive things and sometimes I laugh at my own self. So that's why I'm ridiculous.
No, we're not taking that as an answer. That's not an answer. You're definitely not that. Okay, but
I mean, not in a bad way. I mean, ridiculous, like, because I feel like I make no sense as a person.
Okay, if you could have a studio anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Oh my gosh, probably in the heart of Paris. I'm obsessed with France.
Oh, wow. I'm sure you will. I'm sure that's going to happen.
Once
but
I
another
get
mission
there.
of this podcast for me has become that I ask this question to all of my guests, and then I tell them, please invite me shamelessly. So that now, every part of the world, I am manifesting that all my guests, and I know they will have a studio in all parts of the world, and I get to hop around because I will literally force them on record to invite me. Okay. Your biggest source of inspiration?
Nature.
Your age when you visited a museum for the first time?
Oh, I was very young because going to museums is part of just kind of like an educational programming back home. So I think, I don't know, like maybe less than 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite women artist and why?
Janet Sobol, that's her name. She's actually Ukrainian American artist, and there's not a lot of information out there for her. She doesn't come across in many books, but she did appear in a group exhibit with Lee Krasner in, I think, 1940s. I think the exhibit was put on by Peggy Guggenheim, if I'm not mistaken. And that's like the only time that you actually see in written literature information about her. She was one of the people who started drip paintings. And then there is art world drama. There's an art critic who purposefully omitted her name out of Jackson Pollock's biography, and therefore she doesn't appear anywhere else as the originator of drip paintings. Pollock visited her studio, attributed his inspiration to her work, but it's been erased. And so this is one of the reasons I'm fighting for women artists. I'm so sick and tired of this.
Yes. Could you let me know if you have any links about her, and I will definitely add them to the show notes. Okay. Your go-to person when you're in need of advice or in trouble?
My therapist.
As honest as it can get.
He's the most level-headed person in my life. Yeah.
I think he or she does like a great job and needs to be given the recognition. Okay. If you were to meet younger Svitlana today, what advice would you give her?
Oh my goodness. I would tell her that I trust her in what she thinks and what she knows, and that her voice is strong, and that she knows better than anybody what she needs, because she was not surrounded with people that could help her, and she knew what she needed before anybody else did. And so I think I would tell her to trust herself.
Shout out to an artist who's currently on your heart list / you're loving.
So many. Hold on, I'm gonna have to go on Instagram. Give me a second. Hold on. It's like, because I have so many in my head every time, and I'm like, which one? And I go on All She Makes Instagram, because that's where I learn about them from. Oh, this one was really incredible. Let me see. Mariam Gohar. I think I'm not butchering the name. I hope I'm not. And she creates, my goodness, these beautiful figurative drawings and paintings. They're just so rich and incredible, and it's so detailed. You have to see the work. I can't describe it properly. And I learned about her from the little from the campaign we were doing last month, where all of the followers and readers were telling us their favorite women artists we should know about. And so we were posting that the whole month. So that's how I learned about the work. And I think it was the artist Beppy Isbert who shared Mariam's work. So shout out to everybody who shared their favorite woman artist.
Shout out to both of them. Perfect. Okay, one last. Your tip in 2 words you can give as a women entrepreneur or women artist to other emerging women artists.
Do research. And I think research is the most important part, because this is how you learn what works and what doesn't, by seeing what's out there and then analyzing, and then and so do research. I guess it is 2 words.
Perfect. Okay, I think that you know why this is my favorite part of the whole episode, because the amount of laughs I get, I just, yes, I'm all up for it. But this has been so fun, Svitlana. You've been amazing. I had a really good time, and ever since I've been coming back to recording, and my it just makes me happy to speak to my favorite people and just feel myself back again. So thank you so much. But before I let you go, I have one more last question, which is, if you have anything any new project that you would like to share with all of us, and where can our listeners find you and support you?
So if you're talking about All She Makes, you can support and find All She Makes at allshemakes.org, or on Instagram, we're all.she.makes. And we will have a call for art for our 3rd issue coming out in July. It's very exciting. I'm always so excited for call for arts, because I get to learn so much about all of the new artists. And my personal art you can find at svitlana.m.fineart on Instagram, and my website is svitlanas.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I will make sure that we link all of these links in the show notes. So if you're listening to this episode, go on www.artsoheartsproject and you can find the show notes, and you can find all these links that we've mentioned, all the amazing artists, and you can find the details for the 3rd issue of All She Makes and our open call together with All She Makes. So I hope to see you all there. Thank you so much, Svitlana.
I'm so thankful for this for the invite, and I'm so thankful that we're collaborating together on the new project and new exhibit. And I'm just looking forward towards everything. I'm very appreciative of your time.
Thank you so much. Same here. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. You can find all the details and links mentioned in the show notes of this episode available on www.arts2heartsproject.com. And if you like this episode, please don't forget to tag us in your stories and leave us a review here on iTunes or any of your favorite platforms. It really helps us to keep the show going. Thank you so much. I'm sending you lots of love and I can't wait to be back here soon again. Bye.